Greetings from Bible Worm. We're on hiatus for the rest of the summer, but we'll be back with a new season of narrative lectionary episodes beginning on September 6th for regular listeners and August 30th for subscribers. In the meantime, we hope you'll enjoy this episode from our Revelation and Resistance series, which first aired in summer 2025.
Bible Worm, reading the Bible with Bible Worm.
Welcome to Bible Worm, getting to the core of the biblical text. I'm Dr. Robert Williamson, professor of religious studies at Hendrix College and theologian in residence of Canvas Community in Little Rock, Arkansas.
And I'm Dr. Amy Robertson, Director of Lifelong Learning and Music at Congregation Or Hadash in Sandy Springs, Georgia. We're here every week to discuss the biblical text, both as biblical scholars and as people of faith, one Jewish, one Christian.
This week, we conclude our series on Revelation and Resistance with John's vision of New Jerusalem in Revelation 21, 1-7 and 22-27, and 22, 1-5. The text presents a moving depiction of God come to earth, dwelling among the people and wiping every tear from their eyes. In a renewed world with no death or suffering, humanity thrives beside the river of living water, eating from the tree of life, relieved from pain and suffering and death. While John envisions this New Jerusalem fulfilled in the future, he speaks its vision to Christians enduring the trials of life in the Roman Empire, providing not only a source of hope, but also a vision of what life with God might look like. Similarly, we think this vision might be a source of sustenance for us as well, helping us appreciate the beauty that is already in our midst and giving us the strength to resist the power of the empire for yet another day. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Amy, it's time for the last Bible Worm of the year.
I can't believe we are already here at the end of the summer series. I feel like we're going to have to circle back to Revelation about 25 more times for me to be able to absorb this book. This book is wild.
It is very wild. I feel like that's an appropriate way to read Revelation too. Like it comes at you with a lot, and it sort of overwhelms you. And then you live with it for a little while, and then you go back and read it again.
Right, and you go back and see what you see the next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of lots of things happening in the book of Revelation, we have moved from chapter 7, which is sort of a preview maybe of the throne, the heavenly throne room with the 144,000 and the multitude. Mm-hmm. We are now moving forward today to Revelation 21 and 22. It's a really lovely text, the whole thing together. We're going to read 21, 1-7 and 22-27, and then 22, 1-5. We've read bits and pieces in between there. We've read chapters 13 and 17. Are there things that you think we need to make sure we talk about before we try to make sense of today's text?
Well, just to give us some sort of more immediate placement, since, we've, as you said, we've been moving around a little bit. The chapter right prior to this is sort of a big scene. It's that the great white throne is seen and heaven and earth flee from its presence. And I think Satan is thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur.
Yeah.
And there's a resurrection of people who were always followers of Christ, but died because of that. So it seems like things have kind of come to a head by the time we arrive in chapter 21.
That is very well said. Yeah, that's exactly. The way that things come to a head is kind of complicated in Revelation, and that did a pretty nice job of it. In chapter 18, the city of Rome is destroyed, following up on that conversation that we had about woman Babylon in Revelation 17. In Revelation 19 is the Battle of Armageddon, where the beast is defeated and thrown into the fiery pit. And Satan is confined and put away for a while and then comes back and gets together
I
another
love that it
army.
says that he's going to be locked up for 1,000 years. After that, he must be let out for a little while.
I know. Never known what to do.
After that, he's got to run around the yard.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
This is the millennium. And so you'll hear like sometimes people associated with Revelation are called premillennials or postmillennials. And there's all sorts of like this millennium, 1,000-year reign of Christ. And then the dragon comes back, amasses another army, and then the dragon is destroyed and thrown into the fiery pit. And as you're saying, there's a resurrection of all the dead and a judgment.
Oh, yes, the judgment. I forgot that.
A judgment for good or for bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we pick up today, really all the stuff is pretty much done. The beast and the second beast and the dragon are all thrown into the fiery pit.
Yeah.
Revelation has imagined throwing in the idolaters and the treacherous people into the fiery pit, although as we will see, they keep popping back up. It's really interesting. And now that evil has been sort of put down, now we get the vision of New Jerusalem in Revelation 21 and 22.
That's such a nice way of putting it, is sort of like that the battle has come to a head, evil has been put down, and now what's there?
Right.
It's like a new sort of canvas or
exactly
whatever.
Exactly. Well, let's see what is there, picking up in Revelation 21, and I'm reading in the Common English Bible. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the former heaven and the former earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, made ready as a bride beautifully dressed up for her husband. I heard a loud voice from the throne say, "Look, God's dwelling is here with humankind. He will dwell with them, and they will be his peoples. God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. There will be no mourning, crying, or pain anymore, for the former things have passed away." Okay, let's just pause there. You were talking about, the earth and heaven had fled away in chapter 20, and then now we need something to replace them, or we need a new place to live, I guess. So the first way that gets said here is a new heaven and a new earth, for the former heaven and former earth had passed away.
Yeah.
How do you understand what's happening right there?
I mean, first of all, it's so striking to me that it's not that like the heavenly realm has taken over earth.
Right.
It's that all the first round is gone. And I sat trying to hold that in my head for a little while I was reading, and like it's like trying to think about infinity for me. Like it's how you wrap your mind around everything you have known, both concretely on earth and every way in which you sort of aspired to know the heavenly realm is gone.
Yeah.
So the whole web of meaning that surrounds our life and our relationship to the things and places around us, and I just have this image of sort of like floating, like where are you? How do you make meaning in this new place? And I don't know. It's difficult for me to hold in my mind. Do you have something more, like something I can hold on to or get a foothold into the new heaven and new earth?
Well, I mean, as is often the case with us, I am sort of more mundane in my thinking, which is that so in terms of the new earth, there are people, Christians, who are anti-environmentalists who will read this as like, it doesn't matter what we do to the present earth because God's going to bring us a new one anyway. And so we can wear this one out. The way that I have tended to read it is not that suddenly there's going to be an absence of earth, but that the whole structure around which life on earth is oriented is going to come undone. And so for me, what's happening there is like the Roman Empire formed the framework for civilization, and life on earth as it was known then was in the hands of Rome. Now Rome has come undone. The beast has been cast into the fire. There is no more structure. And so what we've got then is like a rebuilding from, like, not necessarily from the old, but in the place of the old. Not that the earth has like disappeared and now is smack is back, but rather that civilization has crumbled, and then God is creating a new civilization. I have more trouble though with new heaven. It's like, why do we need a new heaven?
Yeah.
Best answer I've got is that the old heaven was also a place of conflict, as we saw back in Revelation 12, in which Satan, the great dragon, mustered up an army and fought against the angels of God. And so maybe because that heaven has also been marked by conflict and violence, that it needs to be remade. But I feel like I'm grasping a little more at this sort of infinitude that you're talking about when I'm thinking about the need for a new heaven.
Yeah, I'm going to hold on to your sort of, I don't know, gentler reading of like, it's not that the entire earth has passed away, but that these sort of civilizational structures, empire structures have passed away. I'm not sure if I buy it yet, but I'm going to hold it.
I'm not sure I buy it either. And I mean, the plain sense of the text is closer to what you are saying. I think it's that my mind, when it encounters that infinitude, is sad.
Yeah.
And so like, okay, here's a way I can understand it.
That's really interesting. Okay. I mean, we'll get to this later, but I felt a lot of sadness reading this text and was like, Amy, this is not supposed to be a sad text. You're not supposed to feel sadness. So we can talk about that as
I mean, I think the experience of sadness is important. Please talk about that as we go. Because I mean, the relinquishing of the old is sad.
Yeah.
Even if ultimately it's a good thing, at least in the framework of the text. So the text then goes on explicitly to tell us that the sea was no more. So new heaven, new earth, but there's no more sea. It has just apparently ceased to exist. We talk about the sea from time to time on Bible Worm. I'm just curious in this context, like, why do you think the text needs to tell us that there's no more sea? Or what's the significance of that, do you think?
I'm so glad you raised that, Bobby, because I don't know, I just had kind of like, I don't know, folded it in with the earth, I guess. But the sea is that, I don't know, like to me is like symbolic of the remaining chaotic forces in the world. And that's where, you know, the sea monsters might be. And maybe there's some connection to the primordial chaotic waters. So maybe by having no sea, there's like nowhere for those things to hide, no way for those forces to like come together and gain power in mass, something like that.
I like that reading a lot. You know, it's not new in the biblical text that God would defeat the empires that are ruling the earth.
Yeah.
We see that all the way back. I mean, even in Isaiah, talking about the Assyrian Empire, but especially in that Daniel 7 text where the beast arises and God destroys it. And then another one comes and, you know, it's like one after the other, after the other, after the other. And so Rome presumably would be no different. As long as the sea is there, there will always be another beast that arises from the sea. And that force of chaos. And so this is the removal of the force of chaos from the world, the source of chaos anyway. The dragon is now in the pit or in the fire, and the sea from which the beasts are emerging is gone. And so a sense of like a final tranquility.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I feel like that's important in the sense of, you know, like we feel as humans, I think like we have defeated certain forces in the world. In the context of the US, I feel like racism is one of these, like the civil rights movement. And then there was a sense in which maybe we're post-racial society now or something. And then in the last 10 or 20 years, whatever it's been now, it has come back in a whole different way with a new ferocity. And you're like, oh no, you never like, it's the temporary
defeat. The sea is
defeat.
Still there. That's right.
Exactly.
Like we're dealing with one manifestation of it in a particular time or generation or just instance, but it's not gone.
So the sea marks some kind of finality to that, the lack of a sea.
I love that connection.
So the next thing that John sees is the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming out of heaven, dressed as a bride, and a voice saying, God's dwelling is here with humans. So there's just so much you could do with that
There's a
image.
lot going on in there. Yes.
Where do you want to start thinking about that?
Oh, Bobby, I'm glad you asked me that so that I can ask you this question instead of you asking me this question. Okay, I get the image of New Jerusalem descending. And I know that like the Hebrew Bible likes this language of sort of the bridegroom kind of language. But for some reason it struck me here as, I don't know, a bride adorned for her husband, the city of New Jerusalem. Like, I don't know. What do you think that the text is trying to get at with that metaphor? What is the relationship between New Jerusalem and, I assume God is the husband here. Maybe that's incorrect, but
I think it's either God or it's the Lamb. And maybe those two have become closely enough aligned now that they're functionally the same. We also had a reference back in 1907 to the marriage of the Lamb, and his bride has made herself ready, which seems to be the church or the Christian community or something like that. And so this image appears to be connected to that one.
Okay.
I would sort of make that connection to where I think you were starting out, which is in the Hebrew Bible metaphor, the marriage of God and Israel, both as an entity, but also as a collection of people. And that this is sort of building on that image to talk about the unification of God and the people and this covenanted relationship. Does that ring true for you, or would you want to say that differently?
And so New Jerusalem to you is not so much a locality. I mean, all of this is kind of metaphor. So what is it? Like, what are we even talking about? But is much more about sort of like, who are the people who constitute New Jerusalem?
I think it's both of those things. Yeah, I mean, the same way that like when you talk about God and Israel, you're talking about both the land region in the Hebrew Bible and also the people. I think this is similar. Like, I definitely envision New Jerusalem as like a city coming down from heaven, and it is so described. And also, it is the people who live in that city, and there is the connection. The common conception is that, at least in Christianity, is that when people die, they go to heaven to live with God. This is the inversion of that. So at the great culmination of history, God comes to live with humans on the earth. Does that make any difference to you?
That's so interesting, Bobby, because I was like, oh, we're going back to when they were in the desert. Like, we're going back to the Mishkan. I think there's a note in my translation that the Greek has, my translation has, see the home of God is among mortals.
Yes.
But the Greek is the tabernacle.
Yeah.
And so I saw it as going back to a previous time, I guess. Again, when they're sort of in this landscape where everything is kind of open, you're in the wilderness, you're in the desert, and what there is the people and God. And I hadn't thought so much about like what happened between that time and another time. Like, I don't know, I hadn't thought about like if God's presence was absent from the earth and then people hope to be in God's presence. That's not how I see the world, but
I appreciate so much that connection. So it reminds me of some things that we were talking about last week, in which the text is looking backwards in order to look forward.
That's right.
And it's not exactly the same image as it would have been in the Hebrew scripture, but it's certainly related. And I think that like God tabernacling with the people, that's what the eschatological future looks like. I think that's really, really lovely. As we're going to see, it's a little bit different because like God lives in the midst of them, and like, anyway, we'll get there. So it's not exactly like God is in the Mishkan and people are gathered around.
Right. Right.
But it is related to here we are, like we're all living together in one place.
Right. God's dwelling place is where the people are.
Maybe that heaven come to earth only really resonates from a Christian perspective, in which we often think of people sort of leaving the earth to go live with God someplace else. And this is saying, no, in fact, God comes to dwell. Like, it's not that abandonment of human society and earthly things. It's that God comes and makes them whole and complete and lives. God comes to live among us, not we go to live with God someplace else.
It's interesting in that context that there's a new heaven and a new earth. Like, there's still a distinction between them. It's not just there's a new way.
Right. Yeah. But then I don't even know who's in new heaven anymore once New Jerusalem comes down and God dwells with humans.
Right.
Does that heaven come to earth?
That's just like the attic.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. I don't know if there's any more to say about God himself will be with them as their God. It just reminds me of places in the Hebrew scripture where God says, I will be your God and you'll be my people, and things like that. Does that sense of like that restatement of the connection, does that go anywhere for you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the sense I have reading this chapter is sort of like it's going sort of back to some vision of a new beginning that we'll get more in different language about as we continue reading. But part of that is this sort of what felt like kind of the simplicity of that relationship in the beginning, which of course is not really simple if you go back and read the text. But that sense that like the people were afraid and God was there with them when they were afraid, and God was their people, and that they were, like they formed this covenant, this bond. The language I find particularly touching here is that God will wipe every tear from their eyes. I don't know if I've encountered that in the Hebrew Bible. Is that Hebrew Bible language? Certainly God does comforting things, but I don't remember tears.
I don't know that imagery either from the Hebrew scripture.
Yeah.
You say that stands out to you. I'm curious, in what way?
It's just so tender. Like, it's not just, the Psalms have like, God will bind your wounds, which is also very tender, but has a more of like a practical aspect to it also. Like the care that God gives, I don't know, has a more concreteness about it. God will lead you to water. God will, all those things. And just God will wipe away your tears is just like pure, like presence with you, and like comfort, and I don't know if empathy or.
The verse goes on to say there will be no mourning, crying, or pain anymore. And like, that's a lovely idea, right? Like all of the things that cause us pain, those things are not there anymore. But I'm with you, I think, that if you just had that statement, it would feel different than the God will wipe away your tear. It's like the combination, like there has been pain and we have lived through it, and God is tenderly acknowledging that and brushing it off. And then there's not going to be any more.
Right.
So it's not a denial that those things are real or that we've been through those things.
Yeah, that part's done.
The other thing that's said here is that death will be no more. And sort of in the midst of that, right, the wiping away the tears, death will be no more mourning, crying, or pain. And so somehow death seems to be centered in that image.
Yeah.
I guess that is sort of the nature of human life, I guess, that death, I mean, I don't know how you think about death as it relates to humankind. It's kind of a central aspect of the human experience.
Yeah, it's just impossible to wrap my head around, but various things going through my head were, as you've pointed out so many times, the ways in which, empires have used the threat of death to try to make people live lives that were untrue to them or untrue to their values or just terrible in various ways. So taking death off the table certainly would take care of that. I wonder, when you read that, I know, again, you're much more familiar with this idea, but like you are a person who who had me read from Kohelet at your wedding to remind you of your own death.
Yes.
So what does it mean to you to imagine death being taken off the table? Like, how does... What you said at the time was that it would help you sort of appreciate and live a meaningful life to know that it wasn't just going to go on forever.
Right.
So how does this just sit in a different corner of your spirit than that?
That's such a good question. So I think that there's a way of thinking about deathlessness, like the end of death or immortality, that is undermining of life itself. If you're constantly living your life thinking, like this doesn't matter that much because there's like an eternal afterlife that is yet to come, it disrupts in some ways your experience of being human, and it makes you not take things seriously in the moment. This was why I had you read Kohelet in my wedding.
Yeah.
But I also find great joy and comfort in the idea of an eternal afterlife. And, my kids are becoming aware of death. And so we talk sometimes about that. And, the thought that there would someday be some kind of reunification is really beautiful to me. And I think the difference is like maybe it's cognitive dissonance. I think that is totally possible. But I also think that there is like the reality of death in the present moment and the promise of resurrected life, but it is not a certainty that is given that I have in myself, but it is something that is promised to me and that I can live into that promise. But it's yet still like a future promise that requires being fulfilled. Somehow I feel like it lets me both take seriously the reality of death and also have some hopefulness about another possibility. I don't know. I feel like I rambled there.
Well, I mean, I asked you an impossible question, but that was helpful. And I do have more of a sense of how you hold those two things together.
Yeah. By the way, two of the things that get thrown into the fiery pit in Revelation are death and Hades, the god of the Roman god of the underworld. And so like death has been destroyed in the same way that the dragon and the beasts have been destroyed. Like those enemies have been vanquished. Okay, picking up in verse 5, God begins to speak. It's not entirely clear who started speaking in verse 3. I heard a loud voice from the throne say, but then that voice makes an announcement about God. And so it seems to be maybe not God, but a divine herald or something. But in verse 5, then we get God speaking. Then the one seated on the throne said, "Look, I am making all things new." He also said, "Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true." Then he said to me, "All is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will freely give water from the life-giving spring. Those who emerge victorious will inherit these things. I will be their God, and they will be my sons and daughters." I'm curious as you're reading that, like, do you make connections to the Hebrew scriptures from what God says there?
The first connection I made here, and I'm not sure if it was from a particular turn of phrase or just the overall scene, but was to the flood and the sort of drawing back of the water after the flood. Like everything has become corrupt. We're going to sort of wipe out things and start anew. And there's this hopefulness, and God, makes a covenant, and there's a rainbow, and, it's never going to happen again. But this is sort of on a different scale than that. This, I am the Alpha and the Omega. I relate that to the sort of the falling away of the earth as you've known it, and human systems as you've known it, and even heaven as you've known it, that all of those things that you thought were the permanent pegs in the ground, they're all gone. And yet it's not that everything has changed, because God has been God is the actual constant here. God was throughout all of that and is still present. And then there's the water piece here, the thirst, the gift of water, the thirst. The thirst makes me think of Psalms. There are a couple Psalms that talk about use the metaphor of thirst and our like longing for God and longing of connection to God that seem like really evocative to me. I don't know if the water they're talking about is a specific, if the water of life, the spring of the water of life is a specific spring. Do you think it's a specific, do you think, does it call up for you a specific spring from a previous scripture?
When I hear that language about thirst, my head is going to Isaiah 55, all who are thirst come to the water.
Okay.
And so that sort of eschatological newness. The life-giving water, I think, is an extension of that image. And we'll see in a minute in Revelation 22 how that gets extended. But the thing it reminds me most of is the river in Ezekiel 47 that we talked about last year in the summer series that flows out from the temple. We'll see a version of this here in a minute. Flows out from the temple, and the animals gather on the sides, and the trees grow. This sort of life-giving stream that kind of connects there for me. I love what you're saying about the flood. I had not made that connection for myself, but it's a way of helping me kind of get my head around what we saw in 21:1 about what do we mean about a new heaven and a new earth, and to think of this text of Revelation as sort of narrating the eschatological flood, in the sense, like unmaking the corrupt world that had been there and then creating space for a new world to be created on top of it. Like, to me, that makes sense. Instead of like the earth disappearing, that's sort of like, this is like the flood. This is the reset button. But now things have been put in place. The sea has been destroyed. Like, things have been put into place to keep the earth and humans from slipping back again into corruption. But this is like that kind of making.
Yeah, God has come to understand more of the ways in which humans can mess things up.
Right, exactly. Exactly. The Alpha and the Omega, of course, harkens back to Revelation 1 in our first conversation. And we had sort of talked about that a little bit in relation to God's name being I am, or was, is, and will be, beginning and the end. And I love that sense of the whole earth can come undone, but God is there, beginning, end, past, future. Like, that's really beautiful. The text goes on to say that those who emerge victorious will inherit these things. We have talked along the way about victory in Revelation. Who do you think is being talked to there? Who are the ones who emerge victorious, do you think?
I think, if I'm recalling correctly, I think this language was used pretty consistently in the letters to the churches. And I remember noticing it there, and I don't remember whether we actually talked about it or not. But I guess, in most of those letters, there is some combination of encouragement and warning. So my translation has those who conquer.
Yes.
I imagine it as sort of conquering or emerging victorious over the forces that would pull you away from God, like the things that you are trying to, the barriers you're trying to get past in order to live more fully with God, something like that. Does that sound right?
I think that's exactly right. We've seen conquering used a couple of different ways. The sea beast in Revelation 13 came out conquering and to conquer, and he wielded violence as a way of conquering in the way that Rome does. The other counter image was the Lamb in Revelation 5, who won the victory and therefore was made worthy, or thought to be worthy. And his victory was not in wielding violence, but in fact in having violence wielded against him, and then being resurrected on the other side. And so we've got sort of a conflict in Revelation. You've got options about how to conquer. And what I think is happening here is that, Christians are meant to be conquerors in the way that Jesus was a conqueror, which means to speak truth and to testify to what is true, and not to wield violence in the way that Rome conquers, and to remain faithful, as you're saying, to the way of God, even though Rome is going to try to seduce you and trick you and threaten you. So that's the nature of the conquering. And if you can do that, then this is yours. And so the book of Revelation has been sort of holding this out since all the way back since Revelation 2 and 3, as you're saying, as like you've got a choice to make, you Jesus follower, and you can conquer in this way, or you can give in. The two-edged sword can be in your favor or not. And here's why, like, okay, you've been faithful, and so now here's what is this is like the eternal carrot, I guess, that's being offered.
Can I ask you about like the sort of the verb tense that's happening here? Like, because they're not, as it's being narrated, people are not still encountering these obstacles, right? So it would be like people who had conquered or people who are conquerors. That sounds like a terrible word to use, but you know what in the Jesus way, like a sort of like present progressive bit. Like, I think my messy question is clear enough.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a great question. The way that I think about it is the things that are happening, like in the moment where they are happening here in 21, is the people who are inheriting New Jerusalem are the ones who have conquered. But when John is giving this vision, he's not, like, he's still in the midst of the Roman Empire in the first century.
Okay.
And so we're supposed to be overhearing.
You're still working on it. Yeah.
You will be there in New Jerusalem if you conquer. And the ones who are emerging are the ones who will have conquered, I guess. Maybe. Yeah.
That's really helpful.
This is this sort of invitation to live into New Jerusalem, even when you're in the midst of the persecution of the empire. Like, New Jerusalem is not just a future reality. It's not a present reality exactly, but it is a given reality that one can live toward in the present, even though it's not fully realized.
Hi, y'all. It's Amy, one of your friendly co-hosts, and I want to tell you why Bible Worm is important to me. There's a Jewish tradition that Torah study is best done with a partner, a Havruta, we call it, someone who pushes you beyond where you would have gone on your own. Bobby was essentially my Havruta for 10 years of grad school, and I've never found a thought partner quite like him. So when he asked if I wanted to read text together, there was no real thought process before I said yes. The decision to record this podcast the way we do was risky. We don't have a script. We don't pre-talk things. We are thinking together live. And it is my hope that precisely because of that, you feel invited to think along with us. Because everyone needs a Havruta. And if you don't have one, I hope you will let us be yours. If this way of being in relationship to biblical text speaks to you the way it speaks to me, I hope you'll help sustain us through Patreon at whatever level makes sense for you. There are some nice perks if you need them. Liturgies, videos, monthly discussion groups. This year I've added some recordings of the chanting of these texts that you might hear in a synagogue. Or you can just support us to show your appreciation and help us know that this work matters. Thanks for listening and for supporting us however you can.
All right, Amy. So our next section of text is in 21:22 to 27. I didn't see a temple in the city because its temple is the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb. The city doesn't need the sun or the moon to shine on it because God's glory is its light and its lamp is the Lamb. The nations will walk by its light and the kings of the earth will bring their glory into it. Its gates will never be shut by day and there will be no night there. They will bring the glory and honor of the nations into it. Nothing unclean will ever enter it, nor anyone who does what is vile and deceitful, but only those who are registered in the Lamb's scroll of life. So in our previous section of text, God had come down from heaven, it seemed, to live in New Jerusalem. Here we find that there is no temple because its temple is the Lord. What do you make of that?
So two things. One that came from you in my head, Bobby, saying, I believe you have always had a little more of a soft spot for the Mishkan than for the temple because it moves, because it is temporary, because, it can't really become a seat of power. Like that's not really how it works. And so maybe there is that kind of sense of a temple. Like there's not going to be some fixed place where God is. It's almost like when God gives God's name as I will be what I will be, like I am where I am. Like I am here, and that's all you sort of need to know.
Yeah.
The other thing that came into my head that's a little strange, but someone told me yesterday, is when you dream of a house, like if you have a dream about a house, it's you.
Oh.
So that started getting me think about like a house as a metaphor for our lives or our bodies, and like sort of an extra layer of protection beyond our own skin, but like that we are ourselves our own. I don't know. Somehow those things seemed related in my head. So there you go.
I'm trying to think back to all the dreams I've had about houses, and what does that say about me?
I know. Yes. Yeah. We'll do that as a bonus episode.
You are right that I have a soft spot for the Mishkan, and I think for the reasons that you say, and probably I have inherited that from Walter Brueggemann, if we're just being honest about it.
Yeah.
And, we had talked about this earlier as God is going to tabernacle among the people.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you think of the tabernacle or you think of the temple as the place where you go to encounter the holy, and now we're saying that the place where you go to encounter the holy is God, then there's a strong sense here in which God simply is in the city, and there is no barrier. Like now, instead of like the Mishkan and Israel gathered around it, it's like everything is inside the tent. And so, every person just has access to God without the apparatus or the special place. And everything is everywhere is holy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when you said that. I was like, wow, so there's really no difference between it just like sort of a regular space and being in the temple or the tabernacle. Like that's intense.
That's intense.
But it really fits well with with the material that comes next, that like there's no sun or moon, there's no night, there's no, there's.
Yeah, what do you do with that? Like suddenly those like seasons and like even day and night have disappeared.
I mean, it's like, I guess I understand it sort of in the abstract along the lines of, this is why I was going to push a little harder against your idea that what we're talking about is just the ways of the empire falling away.
Yeah.
Because if there's no sun or moon, then we're really talking about nature is sort of fundamentally different. Like we have reached some kind of, it feels like we have reached some kind of eternal state where you don't come in and out of a state of holiness in relationship to God, and you don't come in and out of light or darkness. It's just like everything, I guess theoretically you're in the like proverbial good place all the time. That's hard for me to understand as a human because that's not what my human experience is. And so it sounds very strange to have no variety and, no variety of experiences. But this is just a totally other system.
I like that a lot. I had read the No More Night and Day. I mean, because God's glory is its light, like so you don't need the sun for one reason. But also, especially in an ancient culture, night was also often a time of uncertainty and fear. So you get the like joy comes in the morning, like that kind of thing. And so now there's no more of that. So the fearfulness factor, the unknown factor is gone. And that seems like a comfort. You don't need the stars anymore because all time is holy time. And so keeping track of the holy seasons is no longer relevant. But you're right. There's no more ocean. There's no more day and night. There is no more variety. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Amy, it really surprises me. So the nations will walk by its light. Like, okay, the kings of the earth will bring their glory into it. We have not spent a lot of time talking about the kings of the earth in Revelation, but the things that they do, like we saw them committing fornication with woman Babylon, and then they are the ones who amass against God at Armageddon in Revelation 19. Like, those dudes are bad.
What are they doing here?
What are they doing here? That's actually my question.
I mean, who let those guys in? I mean, I don't know if this is some kind of like we're in an idealized state here where there can be kings who truly do everything for the glory of God and who don't get distracted and confused by power the way that humans do. Like the way that kingship sort of should be or was meant to be. Although really, I mean, if we're talking about the story of Israel, the ideal was that there wasn't a king. I guess we're expanding beyond Israel now to all the Gentile kingdoms of the earth. So I don't know, maybe they had a different understanding of things. The only thing I could think is that this is some kind of idealized form of kingship because kings do not get a good rap.
In the whole Bible. Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah. One thing you could do with it is to say that in the history of Israel and now into Christianity, a lot of the kings of the nations have been like taking stuff from Israel, like attacking it and sacking the temple. And now here they're bringing their glory into it. And so here's a reversal of sorts. But I really like where you're headed in terms of this is an idealized form of kingship. And so in this place in which the beasts have been put away and the dragon has been destroyed and there is no more sea, now kings are actually good guys. And they bring the glory and they like even this, the kings are just among us like everyone else. And I think that's a really lovely idea. If you want to push it one further step, then, Revelation wants to get rid of all the bad people and tries to throw them in the fire from time to time in texts that we are not reading. But the kings of the earth are some of the baddest of the bad people in Revelation. And yet here they are in New Jerusalem. And one possible way to read it is to say the kings of the earth were misled by Rome, which was misled by Satan. And so they were doing all of these vile and evil things, but they were doing it because they weren't seeing straight. They had been manipulated. And once you remove all of those like power and seduction and violence away from them, then they actually can see straight. And when they can see straight, they want to be in New Jerusalem with God and the people. And if it's possible for the kings of the earth, then maybe it's also possible for the people of the earth. So I think there's a way of reading it in which the presence of the kings of the earth in New Jerusalem is a suggestion that maybe the scope of salvation is wide. But I had to take a few steps to get there.
No, I like that suggestion. I feel like it pushes a little bit on, that part where it says like for those who conquer will inherit these things. And the people who didn't, like things are not going to be good for you. But I think it's good to open up a little bit of daylight in that question. Like, what about people who okay, they did not conquer. And once the forces that were drawing them or misleading them are taken off the table, they do seem to wind up in the kingdom. So maybe there is a little more space there for second chances.
One detail that sort of leans in that direction for me, although I take your point, is in verse 25, its gates will never be shut by day and there will be no night. And so the gates of New Jerusalem are just always open. So on the one hand, I think this means you're not shutting the gates in fear of being attacked by an enemy because there's no enemy to attack you.
Right.
But I think you could also read it as the New Jerusalem is infinitely permeable. And so it is possible to enter into New Jerusalem, even if you have been on the outside, as long as you are not, in verse 27, unclean or vile or deceitful. And so maybe there's the possibility that one's vileness and deceit could be overcome. And then like the door's open, like, come on in.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, this little description of New Jerusalem continues on in 22, picking up in verse 1. Then the angel showed me the river of life-giving water, shining like crystal, flowing from the throne of God and the Lamb, through the middle of the city's main street. On each side of the river is the tree of life, which produces 12 crops of fruit, bearing its fruit each month. The tree's leaves are for the healing of the nations. There will no longer be any curse. The throne of God and the Lamb will be in it, and his servants will worship him. They will see his face, and his name will be on their foreheads. Night will be no more. They won't need the light of a lamp or the light of the sun, for the Lord God will shine on them, and they will rule forever and always. So here we come back to the image of the life-giving water. Here it is said to be flowing from the throne of God and through the middle of the city's main street. What does that image evoke for you?
I mean, there's an image in Ezekiel 47 that is also in like the Temple Scroll, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it's also in some other older ancient Near Eastern mythology. This image of a river that flows from the throne that is like the river of life, and I wonder if it connects to the myth of the sort of chaotic waters of the Tehom, the chaotic waters of the deep that are said to be sort of held down in the center of the earth under the temple, under the throne. And I don't know the answer to that question, but I think that the idea that sort of the meeting place of the chaos that has been defeated with this sort of life-giving water and having it emanate and just go down the streets, like down the middle of the city, fully available to anybody is so striking.
It makes me think of have you ever been to San Antonio to the Riverwalk?
The Riverwalk, yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like
it's
that.
It's like a mall.
But there's the life-giving stream and everybody like gathers around.
Oh, Bobby.
Like has a beer on the shore. Yeah. But it's like that kind of thing. Like it's the main attraction of the city, where you just want to go and be near the river. But this isn't just like a river. This is a river of life. It is said that on each side of the river is the tree of life, which is drawing us back in some kind of a way to the Garden of Eden. Do you have a sense of what is going on with that image?
I mean, I guess I'm just like, if I was thinking before about the flood, I feel like we're just winding it further and further back to this, that Eden is like this perfect moment in creation. This is how things were, originally conceived that they would be. And everything was supposed to be free and easy. Like there was fruit available. There was nothing that was going to hurt you. You didn't have a sense of shame. You didn't have, like everything was going to be fine. And so I'm sort of imagining now that story, I don't know, somehow layered on top of this idea of the new earth and the new heaven. Again, sort of looking backward and looking forward at the same time.
I really think that image of as we envision the eschatological future, what we're doing is returning to the primordial past. I think that's so interesting, and like the humans and the eating of the fruit of the tree of knowledge in some sense, and the like gaining of self-awareness and the ability to deceive. Like so, all in between those two moments has been kind of gone awry because of humans, just the way that we are and the things that we desire and the kind of way we want to wield power and deceive each other. And now here, like with the defeat of the dragon, like that has been undone. And so we get Eden, but a little bit amplified. It seems like, I mean, I don't know quite what to do with the tree of life on each side of the river.
Side. Yeah, I don't know either.
It's either like a big redwood tree that has an arch in the middle that connects, or it's like there's a bunch of trees of life growing down the river. That's how I have tended to read it.
Yeah, if this were in the Hebrew Bible, the rabbis would have had a real party with that detail.
Bet so. Yeah. Ezekiel's river makes a bunch of trees grow. They're not trees of life, but they're trees all down the riverbank. And so that's kind of how I envision it, is now there's a bunch of trees of life, and it's like it's just there. It's just there for you, and you can go get it.
Such abundance in that image. Like it's not just one tree of life.
It's, and every month there's the fruit of the month club, you know. This is sort of ongoing. It's really beautiful.
That's right. So you don't get bored. Yeah.
Not just is the fruit like life-giving, but also the leaves are now for healing.
Yeah.
I like that this text is also envisioning healing. I mean, I don't know what you do with the nations. Maybe it's the Gentile Christians, but maybe it's also a recognition that the nations themselves were wounded by their allegiance to the empire. And so there is the possibility of healing that reaches out beyond itself. Like this isn't just for us, but it's healing for the world.
Yeah, I don't know whether to think about, and I wonder if it holds together somehow with the kings being in there.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're mostly picturing sort of like individual people who come from many nations, but not like you wouldn't be there as a nation, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Amy, in verse 4, the text says that they will see his face.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking just recently about a text in which Moses wants to see God's face, but is not allowed.
Yeah.
But here you can.
Yeah, like anyone can.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And it is apparently, the Moses story was the one that came to me, but there are other pieces of Jewish like visionary literature from this time. Like we've talked about Second Enoch in this as we've been reading Revelation. Isaiah wants to see God's face. Ezekiel wants to see God's face. And nobody gets to, because that's just not how things work in the world that has now fallen away.
Yeah.
But in this world, yeah, anyone can. His servants, I guess, whoever is his servant can see his face.
The intimacy between God and humans in this text is really profound. Like God has come to dwell, and there's no longer a temple because God's just out and about in the city. God's wiping tears off of people's cheeks. People are looking God in the face. Like there's just this real sense of like closeness of the people in God, which I feel like has been like a hope of the biblical text all the way through, and was true again in the Garden of Eden. And then here it is restored. I just love that sense of like God is no longer above or beyond or past, but just like right with.
Yeah, no, I do too. Although I find it's, I'm trying to like my little tiny like animal brain is trying to picture it. And I'm like, wait, but is God invisible? Or does God look like something? And it's just so funny. Once you take the structure away and don't have any particular place that you would go to feel God's presence, and God's presence is just everywhere all around you in this city. Well, I'll have to be in the world to come to be able to like be with that idea.
Yeah. Amy, this text closes with the line, "The Lord God will shine on them, and they will rule forever and always." I really wish that word "rule" wasn't there. But it is there. And so I'm just so interested in like what do you do with the fact that this text lands on a idea of ruling? Like what do you do with that?
I guess I wonder if there's a way to, we've had so many inversions of these power words from human experience of like conquering and victory and what exactly that looks like. I wonder if there could be an inversion here too, although I am surprised to see that it's humans that they have reigning and not God.
One way of reading it, I guess, is that the hierarchy has been flattened. And so God has come among the people. And the people are ruling, but there's nobody left to rule.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's right. You rule your own self.
So maybe it's like that we are all queens kind of idea. Like, yeah. We have been ruled by others for so long. Now we are in the position of being rulers, but really what that means is being part of an egalitarian community. I don't know. That's where I want to land with it.
I like that. I'll have to sit with that a little bit.
All right, Amy. So here's our vision of the eschatological future and New Jerusalem capping off the book of Revelation. As you sit with this text, where is it speaking to our contemporary world?
I'm thinking two different things that maybe pull in different directions, but it's a complicated book, so we can pull in a lot of directions.
Sure.
One of them that has certainly been true throughout our reading of Revelation and also through many other biblical texts, and is particularly in my head from listening to old lectures of Brueggemann, is just the power of even trying to imagine a world in which imagine a reality in which this is so. And the recognition for me of how hard it is to even imagine it is striking and I think important for me to sit with. And it's a really important exercise, I think, for us. Like if we can't even imagine the world as we want it to be, like what does our sense of like redemption and like true freedom and joy and safety and happiness in the world really look like? Then it's hard to nudge the world as we have it in that direction and have faith that this is real, like this is a real possibility. So that's one direction. The other direction is, I feel like reading this text made me realize, I guess, that alongside all of the great evil and suffering and terror in our world, I really love a lot of things about it. I really love that there are stars and that there's a difference between day and night. And, I was reading this thing about the tree that has 12 fruits and it also has medicinal leaves. And this is such a silly thing, but we've had an insane amount of rain in Atlanta the past several weeks. And so things are growing like crazy. And I have this little fig tree that, it's like on fire. We could not possibly eat, we can't eat figs fast enough. And I don't usually grow my food. I usually go to the grocery store and buy my food. And so I'm very sort of disconnected from the natural world in that way. And I was thinking the other day that it's like, we say money doesn't grow on trees, but like, what an insane system. Like what a feature in a video game that there's this tree in my yard, that there's this sweet, nourishing thing that I can just pull off it and put into my body for energy. Like this crazy. It's crazy. So I guess what I mean by all of that is that though there are so many ills in the world and we hope and work for them to pass away, there's a lot of beauty yet still. And we have limited days in our bodies, and to the extent that we can enjoy the days in our bodies and the gifts that are here on our earth now, I think, without being lured by the empire. Just little asterisks there.
Yeah.
I feel more moved to do that, which I think is a good way to go, a good way for me to go forth into the day and the week ahead.
I love that, Amy.
But probably was not Revelation's point.
Well, no. Maybe not exactly. But, I do think Revelation, it's that question that you asked a little bit ago about this says the ones who will conquer, but haven't they conquered already? To which the answer, I think, is that this text is not written for people living in a New Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. This is a text written for people living in the midst of Rome, in the middle of the Roman Empire. And exactly as you're saying, it's showing us what is possible and what a world with God in which hierarchies are disrupted, and in which you don't live in fear, in which tears are wiped away, and in which death is not a constant motivator. Like, here is what that life could look like. And so even though you're not living there now, you can anticipate it. You can try to live into it here and now in the ways that you're talking about. There's a line that we did not read in Revelation 18:4, in which this is when the angel is showing God woman Babylon, and then the voice calls out and says, "Come out of her, my people." And some people read this as the whole point of the book of Revelation. And I think I might be one of these, is that there are two cities that are given to us. One of them is Rome, called Babylon in this text. The other is New Jerusalem. And the call of the text is to come out of Rome and to live in New Jerusalem, even though it is not yet fully realized. And so appreciating the food that grows on your fig tree, and, living with others peaceably and without fear, like these kinds of things, like you can do them, even though this is not the way that our world is currently constructed. The hope in this text is that there is a future world yet to come in which God does instantiate these things, and we don't have to work so hard at it every day. Yeah. But the near-term importance of this text is that you can actually do that kind of work, and it is an act of resistance to Babylon, and it is also an act of life-givingness for oneself and also for the world. And in some ways, I think that call is exactly right. William Stringfellow, who I really love, I mention like every week, talks about New Jerusalem not as a future reality, but as a present reality that comes in fits and starts now and again. Like you experience it for a time, and then it dissipates. And you have these experiences of New Jerusalem when everything just falls into place. You can't sustain it right now, because if you try to sustain it, you'll create an institution that's afraid of its own death, and then it'll start doing things to protect itself. But you can have these moments with certain people and certain communities, and you can try to put yourself in the place of having an experience of New Jerusalem to give you strength for the living of the day. And I think that's a pretty nice way to read this text too. All right, Amy, well, that brings us to the end of our study of Revelation, and also to the end of season 6 of Bible Worm. I can't believe it's the end of the season. I also can't believe we've been doing this for 6 years.
I know.
It's amazing.
I know. It's wild. I'm really glad we read Revelation this summer. It's been interesting and strange and thought-provoking.
Yeah, me too. I've enjoyed it, and I've especially enjoyed reading it with you. We're going to take about, I don't even know exactly what it is, like maybe 6 weeks off, during which we're going to replay our summer series from last summer on creation. And then we'll be back right before the narrative lectionary picks up in September, talking about the next year's narrative lectionary cycle. Next year is the John year, but when we come back, we'll be in Genesis 1.
Begin at the beginning.
It's a very good place to start.
Have a wonderful break, and see you real soon.
See you in a few weeks.
Yeah. Be well.
You too. Bye. Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of Bible Worm. If you've enjoyed this free podcast, we hope you'll help us keep it going by joining our Patreon for as little as $4 per month. You can also sign up for other goodies like early access, video lectures, weekly liturgies, and more. Visit patreon.com/BibleWormPodcast for details.
Bible Worm is produced and edited by Bobby Williamson. Our theme song is sung by Colin Bagby, and our theme music is The World at Large by Dano Songs. Many thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping make this podcast possible.
We'll be on hiatus until September, but in the meantime, join us for a replay of our 6-week series on creation care, beginning next week with Genesis 1:1 to 2:4a. Until then, keep on digging.